Congratulations! You're now the owner of a truly magnificent sewing machine, the Janome Nouveau. And we're about to show you everything you need to know in order to get the most out of your Nouveau SW or SD. To begin sewing, the first thing we need to do is wind thread onto the bobbin. First, place your reel of thread onto the spool pin with the thread coming over the top of the reel towards you. This will stop the thread catching on the reel. The machine comes with two spool holders, a large and a small. Secure your spool with the most appropriate one. Hold the thread with both hands and press downwards against the hook until the thread clicks into position. Guide the thread around the bobbin tension, making sure the thread is between the tension discs. Insert the thread through the hole in the side of the bobbin from the inside to the outside. Put the bobbin onto the bobbin winder and push it to the right so that it clicks into position. Pull the clutch knob away from the machine to disengage the clutch. With the free end of your thread in your hand and holding the thread directly above the bobbin, depress the foot control. The bobbin will begin to fill. When it has secured the thread with a few turns, pause for a moment and cut the free end of the thread close to the hole in the bobbin. Continue filling the spool. The winding will automatically stop when the spool is full. Return the bobbin winder and clutch back to their original positions. Cut the thread to the bobbin. Remove the bobbin. Remove the clear plastic cover. Holding the bobbin with the thread winding in an anti-clockwise direction, drop it into the bobbin race. Guide the thread into the notch on the front side of the bobbin. Draw the thread to the left side and slide it into position. Replace the clear plastic cover. Now we thread the machine. To help you, there's a threading guide on the inside of the faceplate. It will also help you to follow us now. Place your finger on the thread at the top of the machine. Draw the thread around the guide and firmly place it into the tension. Bring it down around the check spring holder, firmly from left to right, over the take-up lever, and down through the lower thread guides. Slide the thread behind the needle bar guide on the left. Thread the needle from front to back. Close the faceplate after you have threaded the needle. Hold this thread lightly to the front with your left hand. Turn the balance wheel towards you with your right hand until the needle goes down, and continue turning slowly until the take-up lever is in its highest position. Lightly draw up needle thread until it draws up a loop from the bobbin thread. Take both threads to the back and over the thread cutter on the side of the faceplate. If you have the Nouveau SD, you will discover that the bottom dial is the stitch selector with preset widths of 5 millimeters, except the zigzag, which has 4 preset widths. Just line up the stitch required with the white marking above. The top dial controls the length of your stitches. The buttonhole density is colour-coded green to match the green buttonhole on your stitch selector. The length dial is not in operation when on a blue stitch, as this is preset on the correct length. If you have the Janome Nouveau SW, the bottom dial is the stitch selector. The LED light shows the stitch you've selected. The top dial has the width selection on the outer ring, and the inner dial is the stitch length. You'll have full control over the width of your stitch up to 6.5 millimeters wide. This full width is mainly used on decorative stitches and wide buttonholes needed on heavier fabric. The inner stitch length dial is used for all the yellow stitches with a green colour coding for the buttonhole. It is not in operation when using pink stitches numbers 13 to 18 inclusive, as these are preset in length. The following features are identical on both machines. To change feet, raise the needle to the highest position. Raise the presser foot. Press the red button on the back of the foot holder and the presser foot will drop off. When attaching the foot, place the foot so the pin on the foot lies just under the groove of the foot holder. Lower the foot holder to lock the foot in place. The pressure dial controls the pressure of the foot on the fabric. It's located at the top and will be set on 3. Reduce this pressure to 2. That's the pressure for general use fabrics. 1 is recommended for fine fabrics and stretch knit fabrics. Tension of the top thread varies slightly with different fabrics, but you'll find keeping it between 4 and 5 is correct for most fabrics and stitches. We will construct a simple 4-panel skirt, starting with a simple straight stitch. A contrasting thread will be used so you can see all stitches clearly. Use foot A. Select straight stitch. On the SW, that's stitch 12, width 0 and length 2.5. On the SD, it's this symbol, length 2.5. Then sew, reversing both ends to secure the seam. Using the tricot stitch, we will now neaten one side of the seam. On the SW, that's stitch 10, width 5, length 1. On the SD, this symbol, length 1. And sew. Another way of neatening the seam is using a zigzag in conjunction with foot C. This foot prevents the fabric from pleating. Zigzag stitch on the SW is stitch 11, width 5, length 1. On the SD, it's this zigzag symbol, length 1. And we neaten the seam. Now we'll sew in a zipper. You'll need foot E. As you can see, it's different to other feet. These centre bars are for invisible zips, which aren't used much these days. We're sewing in a regular zip, so we'll be using the outer bars. The foot has 2 bars to pick up. Now fit the bar at the back of the foot into the groove at the rear of the foot holder. Lower the presser foot to pick up the front bar. To sew the right side of the zipper, attach the zipper foot on the left-hand side. You'll need the straight stitch on the SW, that's stitch number 12, width 0, length 2.5. On the SD, it's this symbol, length 2.5. Fold and pin the right side of the fabric next to the teeth of the zip. Now sew down, keeping the edge of the foot next to the teeth. On completion, attach the zipper foot to the bars on the right-hand side. The left side of the fabric is now pinned to overlap the teeth. Sew down 1 centimetre away from the fold to the end of the zip and finish by crossing over the zip to the seam. Foot E can also be used for ditch stitching, as it enables you to get right next to the seam. Now let's see how this works on the waistband of the skirt. The waistband has already been sewn on the right side of the fabric and folded, ready to secure with the ditch stitching. Finally, the hem. The edge has already been neatened with a zigzag stitch. Now fold up the amount of hem desired to the wrong side of the fabric. Fold back the skirt, leaving approximately 1 centimetre of fabric. You should be looking at the wrong side of the fabric. Select the blind hem stitch on the SW, stitch 7, width 3, length 3. On the SD, it's this symbol, length 3. Place the fabric under foot G. Adjust the guide by turning it, so that when you sew, the needle will just be catching the fold of the fabric. It is important to keep the fold resting just against the guide as you sew. Now that the skirt is completed, let's go to a blouse. You'll find it easy to do decorative finishes like these. For gathering, use foot A and the long straight stitch. On the SW, stitch 12, width 0, length 4. On the SD, it's this symbol, length 4. You'll also need the tension on 2. This makes it easier to gather. Now pull up the 4 rows on the wrong side of the fabric, securing them firmly. Before using any of the decorative stitches, remember to adjust the tension back to 4.5. We've chosen the honeycomb. On the SW, that's stitch 16, width 6.5. On the SD, this symbol. Now simply sew on top of the gathers. We can see the lovely effect of machine smocking. Now let's finish the edge of the sleeve with a neat rolled hem. We use foot D and the free arm of the machine. To use the free arm, unclip the tool compartment. For a rolled hem on the SW, you'll need stitch 12, width 0, length 2.5. On the SD, this symbol, length 2.5. Turning the sleeve inside out, make a double 3mm fold for approximately 3 centimetres to the wrong side of the fabric. Lower the needle into the fabric at the point where the sewing is to begin. Then lower the hemmer foot, sew 3 stitches, lower the needle into the fabric and lift the hemmer foot. Insert the first fold of fabric into the curl of the foot. Lower the foot, then sew by lifting the edge of the fabric to keep it feeding smoothly into the curl of the foot. To attach the elastic, on the SW select stitch 10, width 5, length 2. On the SD, this symbol, length 2. Using foot B, we've already joined the elastic in a circle, pinning halfway points on the sleeve and elastic. Join these halfway points together. Slip it on the free arm, still working with the sleeve inside out. Sew a couple of stitches, stopping with the needle down in the fabric. Stretching the elastic to the amount of fabric and keeping the same tension on the elastic at the back as on the front, sew first half, and repeat process on second half. The last step on all garments are the buttonholes and buttons. On the SW, width 5, length half. On the SD, this symbol, length half. First, measure the button, adding 3mm for the finished length of the buttonhole. Mark this on your garment where the buttonhole is to be positioned. Still using foot B, start at the top of the buttonhole on pattern selector number 1 and sew down the left side to the length marked. Raise needle. Set pattern selector dial to 4-2. Sew 5 stitches of bar tack and raise the needle. Set pattern selector dial to 3. Sew up the right side of the buttonhole, stopping when directly opposite the first stitch of the left-hand side. Raise the needle, set pattern selector dial to 4-2. Sew 5 stitches. Now the buttonhole is completed. Use the quick unpick supplied. Insert it inside the bottom bar opening to halfway. Then from top bar tack, cut the opening completely. This prevents you cutting your bar tacks. Using foot B, we'll now attach a button by machine on the SW, that's number 11, width 3.5. On the SD, it's this zigzag symbol. You'll need to drop the feed dogs. Push the button at the back of the machine to your right. Have the button taped into position and manually turning the balance wheel, lower the needle into a hole in the button and sew 1 stitch into the other hole. This ensures the needle will sew into the 2 holes. Sew 8 stitches. When completed, pull threads to the back of the fabric and knot. When you have finished sewing buttons, don't forget to bring the feed dogs up again by pushing the button at the back, this time to your left, then turning the balance wheel towards you, doing 1 stitch manually. Let's look at some repairing and reinforcing stitches. You'll need foot A and the triple stretch stitch. On the SW, it's stitch 14, width 0. On the SD, it's this symbol. It's ideal for any stress areas on garments, as it sews 2 stitches forward and 1 stitch backwards. It is also ideal as a top stitch. To patch a hole in clothing, leave on foot A. Dial the tricot stitch. On SW, it's stitch 10, width 5, length half. On the SD, it's this symbol, length half. Place the patch over the hole. Keep the edge of the patch in line with the centre of the foot. Sewing down just past the first corner, stop with the needle down in the furthest right-hand position. Lift the foot lever and pivot to come down the next edge. This will reinforce the corner. Continue around the patch in the same manner. We will now demonstrate sewing knit fabrics with a boy's windcheater and a girl's dress. First, dial the straight stitch. On the SW, that's number 12, width 0, length 2.5. On the SD, this symbol, length 2.5. Use your blue-tipped needle for stretch fabrics. To quilt the shoulders, use the quilting guide, which will help to keep the stitching line straight. Loosen the quilter screw. Slide the quilter in the opening to the desired width and tighten the screw. We have already placed a layer of wadding between the windcheater fabric and the lining. So, guiding the quilter over the previous row of stitching. remove the quilter. For applique, use foot B and the satin stitch. On the SW, that's stitch 11, width 4, length half. On the SD, this zigzag symbol, length half. We have already basted on a design and backed the fabric with violin. Now applique, using a satin stitch, making sure the stitches will cover the outer edge of the design. Let's see how we finish the garment using foot C and the knit overlock. Knit overlock on the SW is stitch 17, width 5. On the SD, it's this symbol. You must ensure all edges run along this black guide. The ribbing should be cut 2/3 the measurement of the neck edge. We have already sewn the ribbing into a circle using the knit overlock and have quartered the ribbing and neck edge using pins. We have matched the quarter points of ribbing to the neck. As the ribbing is smaller than the neck, we'll stretch the ribbing to fit the neck. This gives a professional finish on your windsheeter. We'll now use a single knit fabric for a girl's dress. Select a shell edge tuck, which is a simple decorative stitch. On the SW, stitch 9, width 5, length 1. On the SD, this symbol, length 1. We've folded the fabric where the tucks are to be placed. The folded edge is placed along the slot of foot B. The needle should fall off the edge of the fabric on the right, forming a tuck. It's easier to shell tuck the fabric first before cutting your garment. For an open seam on this knit fabric, we'll use foot A and the outline stitch. It is stitch 13 on the SW, width 3. On the SD, it's this small zigzag symbol, length 1. This is an exclusive Janome stitch that stretches with the fabric. Now we'll use a flat overlock. On the SW, that's stitch 18, width 5. On the SD, this symbol. For the armholes, turn the edge in 15 millimetres and sew on the right side of the fabric. For an effective finish on the hem, we'll use foot D as shown on the rolled hem of the blouse. This time we'll use a zigzag. On the SW, stitch 11, width 4, length 1. On the SD, this zigzag, length 1. So stretch the fabric as you sew. And as you can see, the result is very effective. Now that you're up and sewing, you can look forward to many years of creativity on your Janome Nouveau. The following will ensure you get the best performance from your machine now and long into the future. Remove the clear slide plate which covers the bobbin. Lift out the bobbin and put it aside. Using the screwdriver supplied, unscrew the throat plate. Lift off the throat plate and remove the black bobbin holder. This comes out very easily. Using the brush which comes with your machine, clean out the dust and fluff from the feed dogs and race. Place 1 drop of sewing machine oil in the centre of the race to keep your machine running smoothly. Remember to use sewing machine oil only. Replace the bobbin holder carefully. You must make sure that the 2 red arrows line up as you drop the holder back into position. Replace the throat plate and tighten the screw. Do this regularly, say after completing each garment. This will help your machine to stay in A1 condition. Before removing your needle, raise it to the highest position by turning the balance wheel slowly towards you. Lower the foot, unscrew the needle, and remove. Insert your new needle with the flat side to the back. This is very important. Double check to see that the top of the needle can be seen in the archway of the needle bar. Machine needles need to be changed regularly. Each type of fabric should be matched to the needle of the correct size and type. The perfect complement to your Nouveau sewing machine is the Janome Lock Home Use Overlocker. The Janome Lock is a 3-thread overlocker that seams, cuts the fabric, neatens edges, and prevents fabric from fraying. It handles knit and woven fabrics with ease and gives a truly professional finish to all your sewing. These are only a few features available on the Janome Lock. Call into your friendly Janome retailer who will be happy to demonstrate the outstanding Janome Lock to you. Farewell and happy sewing with Janome.